board charter and what shall be included in the board charter. The role, responsibilities, functions of the directors who are appointed as board of directors in an organization's board that we had discussed yesterday. Today, we will be starting with types of directors. That what are the various types of directors that should be included on the board of every organization. So first type of director is residential director. Yes, anyone who has read about this residential director? Because yesterday I had told you that come prepared. It will be better for you to discuss in the class. So I hope that you have gone through with the types of directors and you are aware of residential director. Yes, who is going to explain residential director? What is that? Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so residential director is a director who is appointed by the company, and the condition for this resident director is that he should be in India for more than at least half a year. Then only he can be appointed as a resident director. So the person who stays in India for more than half year, that 7 months, 8 months, 10 months, he is in India, and for 2 months he goes outside for any activities. So that person can be appointed as a resident director. A person who is a resident of India but who is having businesses across the world. Now, this person who is not staying in India for more than 6 months, that person cannot be appointed as a resident director in the board. So, simple, resident director is a director who stays in India for more than 6 months. That director can be appointed as resident director. Now, the next one is independent director. Now, I hope that everyone is aware of independent director, but because many times in the class itself, we have discussed this term independent director. Yes, independent director. Okay. So, independent director is a person who is not involved in the functioning of an organization. He is included on the board of directors of the organization solely on the basis of his experience and his talent in that particular field. Suppose a IT company is there, and if a IT consultant who is not at all involved in the day-to-day functioning of the organization, who doesn't have shares of the organization in a particular quantity, that person can be appointed as independent director. So, as the word itself says, independent, who is not dependent on the company, or who is not involved in the day-to-day functioning of the company, is a director who can be called as independent director. The tenure of the independent director is generally 5 years. So once an independent director is appointed by any organization at the board, the tenure, the period of his stay as independent director in that board is 5 years. Before 5 years, also, the person can be removed if it is found that the person is not attending the meetings regularly of the board of directors, as well as of the committee of which the independent director is a part. So if such thing happens, then the independent director can be removed earlier than 5 years. That is one condition, that if he remains absent from the meetings of board of directors or the committee meetings, then the person can be removed from the position of independent director before he completes or she completes the tenure of 5 years. Now, the next condition when we can say that the person can be the independent director can be removed from the position before 5 years is that if the independent director is attending all the meetings, the board meetings as well as the committee meetings, but he is not performing. So during the performance evaluation, suppose the performance evaluation of an independent director is conducted after 1 year, and it is found that although the person, the independent director, is present for all the meetings, but he is not contributing, but he is not performing well during the meeting, he is not coming prepared for the meeting. So his contribution to the board or his contribution to the committee to of which he is a part, if it is not found satisfactorily, then again the person can be removed before 5 years. Now, the third condition where the independent director can be removed is if the independent director is not performing the role and responsibilities which are assigned to him under the board charter. Yesterday only we have discussed that board charter is a policy document which mentions all the roles and responsibilities of the board collectively, as well as the role and responsibility of individual director. So it is expected that all the directors, whether it is residential director, independent director, executive director, non-executive director, or any type of director is there, all the directors are supposed to read the board charter clearly. They need to understand their role and responsibility as board member, as committee member, and they have to perform those duties. Now, if the independent director is not performing those duties, then the person can be removed earlier than 5 years. Here, the independent director cannot have a say right. He cannot claim that now only 1 year has passed or 2 years are passed and still 3 years are there or 4 years are there and you cannot remove me. It can be done. It can be done. Next, now we have seen that the tenure is 5 years. Now this tenure of 5 year of an independent director can also be extended. Just now we have seen that it can be curtailed. that before 5 years also, the independent director can be removed from his position of independent director. Now we will be discussing that whether the person can be renominated as independent director on the board. Yes, anyone, can an independent director be appointed as independent director again for the next 10 years? 5 साल खत्म हो गए, उसने अच्छा काम किया या एवरेज काम किया, उसका 5 साल खत्म होने के बाद क्या वो एलिजिबल है दोबारा चुने जाने के लिए, दोबारा नॉमिनेट किए जाने के लिए? If yes, how, what is the process of that nomination? I hope my voice is clear to all. Is my voice clear?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, so the answer is yes, the person can be reappointed as independent director. And the condition for reappointment is that a special resolution shall be passed by the board of directors for reappointing the independent director. That his performance for the last 5 years was very good. So it has been decided unanimously by the board that one more tenure of 5 years shall be given to this independent director. So this way he can be reappointed on the board of directors, right? So that is the procedure, that a resolution has to be passed by the board of directors, and if it is backed by majority or if it is unanimously passed, then the independent director who has already completed his tenure of 5 years as independent director on the board of a particular company can be reappointed again for next 5 years on the board of that particular company. So that is the meaning of independent director. Now next is a woman director. Now woman director, as the name itself suggests, that a female director is to be appointed on the board, and that director will be called as woman director. Now a company which is listed, it can be private company, it can be a public company. So all the listed companies, maybe public, maybe private, all are under the binding. It is compulsory for all these companies to appoint a woman director. Now the paid up capital of a company, if is 100 crore, or if the turnover of the company is more than 300 crore, then it is compulsory for the company that it has to appoint a woman director on its board. We had discussed in the committees also that in various committees, it is essential that at least one woman director should be included. So that is the meaning of woman director. Woman director can be independent, can be executive, can be non-executive director, but a woman director has to be appointed. Now, the reason behind appointing women director, resident director, then the independent director, non-executive director, executive director, and the next which we will be discussing is shareholder director, is to ensure that board to ensure board diversity. Now, board diversity means board should get representation from all walks of life. That means that males are there in the board of directors of a company. Females are also part of the board of directors of a company. Then independent directors are there, executive directors are there, non-executive directors are there. The reason is that if diversity exists in the board of directors, different ideas will come during the discussion, and it will be profitable for the company. So that is one of the reason why board diversity is always encouraged. It should not happen that all male directors are there, all female directors are there on the board. So diversity means male female diversity should be there, executive non-executive diversity should be there. So all walks of life, that independent, that sometimes consultants are also part of the board of directors. Why it is so? Because the company wants to get various ideas or ideas from different walks. Consultant may be thinking in a different way, independent director may be thinking in a different way, female director may be thinking in a different way. So if people are thinking differently, then there are possibilities that they will be coming up with different ideas which are going to be beneficial for the company. But if this diversity is not there, then these different ideas will not come, which will not be good for the company in the shorter period or in the longer period. So that is the reason why this is made compulsory. Now, women director is made compulsory, that the issues of women should be raised at the highest level, and the issues can be raised properly by a woman only, because it is expected or it is said that a man cannot raise the issues related to women in a say in a proper manner. So a woman will be in a better position to raise the issues related to women, related to the betterment of women, what all facilities can be provided to the women employees to make them a better employee, to make them a productive employee. So all these things can be raised at the highest level, at the board level, in a better manner by a female. And that is one of the reason why it is made mandatory that every board, every board of director shall have representation from females. Now the next one is small shareholders director. Small shareholder director. Now again, the name itself says that the director who will be appointed as shareholder director or small shareholder director, what his role and responsibility at the board will be. As a result of various scams, right from the scam which started in early 90s. That was one of the biggest security scam by Harshad Mehta. From that scam, it was realized, and after the other scams also, it was realized that the most negatively affected class is the shareholders, and that too the small shareholders who are having, say, 100 shares of a company, or 50 shares of the company, 200 shares of a company, 1,000 shares of a company. So these shareholders are called as small shareholders, as they are not represented properly, they are not united. Now, if suppose I have purchased 50 shares of a company, somebody who is in Gujarat, he has purchased 100 shares of the same company. Somebody in Tamil Nadu, he has purchased 50 shares of the same company. The other person is in Mizoram and he has purchased 200 shares of the same company. Now, in this example, we can very easily find out that one person doesn't know the other person, that who is the other person who has bought the share of this particular company. So in small quantity, hundreds, thousands, and lakhs of people are purchasing small quantity shares, and these people are called as small shareholders. And it was realized that these small shareholders are getting worst hit by these scams. And as they are not having any representation at the board level, their interests are not taken care. कि शेयर्स, कोई स्कैम हुआ, शेयर मार्केट नीचे गिरा, कंपनी के शेयर्स कम हो गए, तो सबसे ज्यादा जो लॉस होता है वो स्मॉल शेयर होल्डर्स को होता है. एंड these small shareholders are middle class people, or we can say lower middle class people. They are not very rich, they are not very wealthy, so they invest their small saving in purchasing these shares. Why they are purchasing? Because they want to earn more profit than the regular fixed deposit profit under the bank. So the profit percentage in fixed deposit is less, but risk is also less. If we invest our money in share market, the profit percentage is more, but it is accompanied with more risk also. So here it was thought that a director should be representing the small shareholders at the company's board meeting. And that was the reason why a special position for a director at the company board was created, and that position was called as small shareholders director. Now, the functioning or the role of this small shareholder director is that he will represent the small shareholders of the company, and he will see to it, or she will see to it, that the interest of small shareholders are taken care by the company. If the company has decided that, say, 1% premium will be paid, the role of this small shareholder director is to ensure that the premium is being paid to all the small shareholders of the company. The process through which the premium will be paid, he shall be monitoring that process. That how many shareholders are there, what will be the amount which will equal to that 1% dividend. How the money will be transferred? Has the money has transferred to all the shareholders account? If some of the shareholders have still not received that dividend, that profit, what is the reason for that? Is their account numbers which they have mentioned are not correct? Is there any other problem for not sharing the dividend amount with those shareholders? So all these things which are related to small shareholders is to be taken care by the small shareholder director. That is his role. Next one is additional director. Again, the name itself says. Now, this additional director, his tenure is very short, is very small. Apart from the regular directors, if the board feels that one or two more directors can be appointed for a particular period, because in this particular period, the board is having more work to complete, then they can nominate, they can appoint a director, and that director will be called as additional director. Next one, alternate director. Again, this director, from the name itself, we can find out that what will be the meaning of alternate director. Now, one director has been appointed by the organization at its board. If this director is, say, out of the country for more than 3 months, or the director is not feeling well and he is unable to attend the meetings for more than 3 months, or he has met with an accident, he is hospitalized, and doctors have advised him complete bed rest for the next 3 months. So, if for more than 3 months, a appointed director, if that appointed director is unable to perform his or her duties, in that condition, on his or her place, a new director can be appointed for a temporary period, and that director will be called as alternate director for a temporary period. Mr. A is appointed as an independent director in the organization. Now, Mr. A has met with an accident and he is hospitalized for next 3 months, or for next 6 months. Doctors have advised him complete bed rest. He cannot move from his bed. He is bedridden for next 6 months. Now, in this situation, the company can appoint another independent director on his place, but that director will be appointed temporarily till this independent director, who is appointed for 5 years, he joins his duties again as the board of directors, as independent director. So that director who is appointed for a temporary period, that director is called as alternate director. Now, the next director is executive director. Now, executive director, we all are aware that the meaning of executive director is the director who is involved in the day to day functioning of the organization. It is not that the board of directors consists of only executive directors, independent directors or non executive directors or women directors, but it also consists of executive directors. Now, these executive directors are general manager of the organization, or CEO of the organization, or managing director of the organization, or chief operating officer of the organization. So, the highest position of the organization can be represented at the highest level, that is the board level, by the highest position. Suppose in the board, if the board strength is of 10, 10 directors are there. In these 10 directors, there can be 2 or 3 executive directors also. Now, these executive directors will be those directors who are directly involved in the day-to-day affairs of the company. Managing director, who regularly goes to the office, who sits in the office of the organization and who conducts the day-to-day activities. The say general manager of the organization, who is regularly visiting the office, his office in the organization, and he is performing his day-to-day duty in as a general manager in the organization. So those directors who are representing the company. Now, independent director, they are not representing the company. When we take the meaning of, say, this uh, small shareholder directors, they are not representing the company. When we take example of, say, there are representations from the government side also, they are not representing the company. So the directors who are representing the company, who are involved in the day to day functioning of the company, these directors are called as executive directors. Now, their tenure is not fixed. An executive director can be there for 1 year, so can be there for 5 years, can be there for 10 years also, or more than 10 years also. So executive director will be appointed or will be part of the board of directors of a particular company till he enjoys that position in the organization. Now, one executive director is there and he is part of the board of directors of the organization, but he will be part till he is with the company. Because why he is included in the board of directors? Because of his designation in the company. His designation is general manager, his designation is chief executive officer, or his designation is managing director. Now, the moment the managing director leaves this organization and joins some other organization, automatically he is removed from the board of directors of this organization also, because he was included in the board of directors of company A. Why he was included? Because he was managing director of company A. Now, the moment the managing director resigns from his position or leaves his position of managing director from company A and he joins company B, immediately the person will be removed from the board of directors also. So that is the meaning of executive directors. Now, next one is non-executive directors. So, non-executive director, it is exactly opposite of the executive director. Under executive director, we have seen that these type of directors, they go to the office regularly, they perform their functions in the office regularly, and they are involved in the day-to-day functioning of the organization. Whereas if we exactly opposite, if we make exactly opposite of it, and if we talk about non-executive director, these non-executive director do not go to the offices regularly in the organization. So they are not involved in the day-to-day working of the organization. But yes, they can participate in the board meetings. They can participate in the policy making process of the organization. So these directors are called as non-executive directors. So these were some of the important types of directors that we had discussed. Now we will move on to the another concept which is remaining, and that concept is called as separation of role. Separation of role means earlier it used to happen that the chairman of the board of directors, as well as the highest authority of the organization, used to be the single person only. That means the managing director or chief executive officer of the organization used to be the chairman of the board of directors of a particular organization. That was a usual practice earlier, कि मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर कंपनी का और बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स का चेयरमैन एक ही व्यक्ति, अलग अलग नहीं. बट नाउ it is clear that there has to be separation of role, which means that the managing director or the chief executive officer of the organization and the chairman of board of directors of the board shall be two different persons. One person cannot occupy two positions, and that is called as separation of role. Now, the logic behind introducing this separation of role is very simple, because the chairman of board of director is having more authority than other directors. He is having the final authority to approve a particular decision or to reject a decision, to approve a policy or to reject a policy. So, if the chairman is having the highest authority, and if both the position, chairman of the board and the managing director of the company, both the position are held by a single person, that person will become too powerful, and that person may 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 approve the decision single handed, because in company also he is the highest authority, in board also the managing director is chairman, so he is enjoying the highest authority or more authority as compared to other directors. So whatever decision will be finalized by the chairman and managing director will be accepted or is to be accepted by all the other directors. Why? because the person is more powerful. Now, to put a check on this, that it should not happen that one person is controlling the entire board and he is taking all the decisions which are not in the general interest of the company, but which are in the personal interest of that particular person. So if such thing happens, that is not good for the company. And that is the logic why this separation of role has been introduced. And in this separation of role, it is clearly mentioned that the chairman of the board of directors shall be a person who is not the managing director of the organization. So अगर managing director Mr. A है, तो Mr. B should be appointed as the chairman of the board of directors. It should not happen that Mr. A is managing director and Mr. A is also the chairman of the board of directors. So that was the logic behind starting the concept called this uh, separation of power. Now that was related to our types of directors. In the next session, we will be discussing the corporate governance philosophy at different countries. What is the corporate governance structure in Singapore? What is the corporate governance structure in England? What is the corporate governance structure in Australia? And various other companies which are included in the syllabus. So that we are going to discuss how their corporate governance guidelines are different from us. Is there any difference? If yes, what is that difference? That we are going to discuss in the next lecture on corporate governance. So thank you everyone for being present in today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.